The Steffi Graf Stadium in Berlin. June 17, 2026. The grass is immaculate. The floodlights are beginning to cast their glow across the court. And the tennis world is about to witness something that no one saw coming. Coco Gauff is the fifth seed at the Berlin Open. The world number 7. The 2023 US Open champion. A player who has been touted as the future of women's tennis since she was 15 years old. A player who, just months earlier, had crushed Alexandra Eala 6-0, 6-2 in Dubai, but this is Berlin. And this is different. The cameras are rolling. The microphones are live. And Gauff, in a moment of stunning candor, says something that will send shockwaves through the tournament. Alex Eala looks like the favorite to lift the Berlin Open trophy. The words hang in the air like a thunderclap. The tennis world is stunned. Not just by the comment, but by what it represents. A changing of the guard. A recognition that the 21-year-old from Quezon City is no longer just a promising prospect. She is a contender. She is the one to beat. And then, something even more remarkable happens. Gauff, the one who had called Eala the favorite, is knocked out in the second round. She loses to Paula Badosa in 3 sets. Her tournament is over. But Eala's is just beginning. What happened next in Berlin was not just a tennis tournament. It was a coronation. A moment that would leave the tennis world absolutely speechless. This is the story of that week. This is the story of how a wild card from the Philippines became the biggest story in tennis. Let's begin. The Berlin Open was supposed to be about the favorites. Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 1. Coco Gauff, the American superstar. Jessica Pegula, the 3rd seed. These were the names that dominated the pre-tournament conversation, but then, Coco Gauff said something that changed everything. Alex Eala looks like the favorite to lift the Berlin Open trophy. The words were unexpected. Gauff, after all, had beaten Eala 6-0, 6-2 in Dubai just months earlier. She had no reason to fear the Filipina. She had no reason to elevate her above the established stars, but Gauff saw something that others were only beginning to notice. She saw the momentum. She saw the confidence. She saw the crowd. She saw a player who had just won her second WTA 125 title at Birmingham, who had proven that her breakthrough at Miami was no fluke, who was playing with a freedom that made her dangerous. Eala had arrived in Berlin ranked 35th in the world, a wild-card entrant who had no business being in the same draw as the sports elite. She had started the year ranked 33rd, slipped to 37th, and then clawed her way back up. But she had won her second WTA 125 title at Birmingham just days earlier, a hard-fought victory that had added 76 crucial points to her total. Her first opponent was Donna Vekić. The Croatian veteran had just won the biggest title of her career at Queen's Club. She was confident. She was hungry. And she was looking for revenge. Eala won 7-5, 6-4. Now, she was facing Elena Rybakina, the world number 2. The Wimbledon champion. The player who had dismantled her in Rome just weeks earlier. And Coco Gauff, who had just been knocked out of the tournament herself, was watching. Gauff's tournament had ended in disappointment. She had started well, winning the first set 6-1 against Paula Badosa. But then, something shifted. She lost the next 2 sets 6-3, 6-2. The American's Berlin campaign was over before it had truly begun, but her words about Eala would prove to be prophetic. The match against Rybakina was the moment that would define Eala's tournament. The world number 2. The reigning Australian Open champion. The former Wimbledon champion. A player who had 13 aces, who won 81% of her first serves, who had beaten Eala in straight sets just weeks earlier at the Italian Open. The tennis world expected a repeat of Rome. A routine victory for the world number 2. Another lesson for the young Filipina. Another reminder that there are levels to this game. But Eala had other plans. Rybakina came out firing. She raced to a 4-1 lead, her serves thundering, her ground strokes devastating. It looked like the script was following the same plot as Rome. But Eala refused to back down. She found her footing and took 6 of the next 7 games to win the first set 7-5. The crowd erupted. The Filipino flags waved. And Eala had sent a clear message to the world number 2. This was not going to be a repeat of Rome. The second set was similarly tight. Rybakina continued to fight, but Eala's composure was unshakable. She converted 3 of her 7 break-point opportunities. She won 70.4% of points on Rybakina's second serve. She was clinical. She was ruthless. She was unstoppable. The final point came on a backhand error by Rybakina. Eala let out a huge roar in celebration. She had done it. She had stunned the world number 2. The scoreline read 7-5, 6-4. The match had taken 1 hour and 32 minutes. And Eala had just achieved the biggest victory of her grass court career. It was the most difficult moment of the match, Eala said. It wasn't easy, especially when she came back and became more aggressive. Many factors were at play, but in the end, I was able to picture everything that remained in my mind, and it ended well. Making her Berlin debut, Eala was into the quarterfinals of a WTA 500 tournament for just the second time, and the upset of Rybakina matched her career best win by ranking. But the victory was about more than rankings and statistics. It was about belief. It was about validation. It was about showing the world that Coco Gauff's prediction was not just empty words. The cameras were rolling. The microphones were live. And Alexandra Eala, still processing what she had just accomplished, walked over to the on-court interviewer. But before Eala could speak, she did something that no one expected. She pulled out her phone. She made a call. And in that moment, the world saw something it had never seen before: raw, unfiltered emotion. "I called my dad," the beaming 21-year-old said. "I just said, oh my God. We were just screaming, and my mom was there, too. I'm just really happy." The words were simple. But the emotion behind them was profound. Here was a young woman who had just beaten the second-best player in the world, and her first instinct was to call her parents. To share the moment with the people who had believed in her from the very beginning. The people who had sacrificed everything so she could chase her dream. The tennis world was stunned. Not by the victory, but by the vulnerability. The humanity. The reminder that behind the rankings, behind the headlines, behind the hype, there is a young woman who is still processing the magnitude of what she has achieved. "I am a little foggy right now," Eala said. "I'm still shaking, and I was shaking on match point, too. I'm really happy with today, of course. It could have gone either way." The words hung in the air. Here was a champion who had just beaten the world number 2, and she was admitting that she was shaking. She was admitting that she couldn't quite believe what she had done. She was showing the kind of vulnerability that is rare in professional sports. "She's the one to beat," Eala said of Rybakina, "so I'm happy to have been able to share the court with her again." The contrast could not have been more stark. Here was a young woman who had just achieved the impossible, and she was deflecting credit. She was showing the kind of grace that champions are made of, and in that moment, the tennis world realized something. Coco Gauff had been right. Alexandra Eala was the favorite. The victory over Rybakina was just the beginning. Waiting for Eala in the quarterfinals was Elina Svitolina, the world number 8. The former world number 3. A player who had won 20 WTA titles, who had spent over 300 weeks in the top 20. The tennis world expected the fairy tale to end here. The veteran versus the upstart. The proven champion versus the rising star. The established order versus the disruptor, but Eala had other plans. She played with a confidence that was almost supernatural. She dismantled Svitolina 6-3, 6-4 in 1 hour and 23 minutes. It was her second top 10 win in as many days. Elina is a huge fighter, and I've seen it many times, Eala said. I've been watching her since I was a kid, so to be able to compete with her today is such an honor, and I really admire her. She's a mother, and I find her to act with such elegance and strength. The victory was Eala's 6th career win over a top 10 opponent. She had beaten the world number 2. She had beaten the world number 8. She had reached the semifinals of a WTA 500 event for the first time in her career. She had become the first Filipino to achieve such a feat. The tennis world was in disbelief. Coco Gauff's prediction was becoming a reality. Eala's run had captured the imagination of the entire tennis world. The crowds were growing. The buzz was building. And the young Filipina was showing no signs of slowing down. Coco Gauff, watching from the sidelines, must have felt a sense of vindication. She had seen it coming. She had said it out loud. And now, the world was witnessing it. The semifinal was scheduled for Saturday, June 20th. But the rain had other plans. A 4-hour weather delay kept the players waiting, the tension building with every passing minute. When the match finally began, it was clear that Linda Noskova had come to play. The Czech star, ranked 13th in the world, unleashed a relentless barrage of power serves, punishing ground strokes and daring net attacks that Eala simply could not neutralize. The opening set was marked by a flurry of early breaks, with Noskova gaining the upper hand after securing 2 breaks of serve compared to Eala's 1. The world number 13's serve proved to be the decisive weapon. She fired 5 aces to Eala's 1. Noskova won the first set 6-2. The second set followed a familiar script. After the players traded holds early, Noskova elevated her level once more, securing a crucial break and backing it up with another dominant service game to open a 3-1 advantage. But Eala refused to go quietly, trailing 2-3 in the second set. The Filipina dug deep and mounted her strongest resistance of the match. She battled through a tense 6th game to force multiple deuces before capitalizing on a series of Noskova miscues to secure a crucial break and level the score. She then held serve to move ahead 4-3. The hope, however, was short-lived. Noskova responded with the poise and firepower that had carried her throughout the tournament. She rattled off a love hold to even the set at 4-4 before immediately breaking Eala at love to reclaim control. The final score was 6-2, 6-4. The dream was over. Eala's magical run had come to an end. She had fallen just short of the final. But in doing so, she had proven something far more important. She had proven that Coco Gauff was right. Alexandra Eala had arrived. She had beaten the world number 2. She had beaten the world number 8. She had reached the semifinals of a WTA 500 event. She had climbed into the top 30 of the world rankings. She had become a symbol of hope for the Philippines, and she had done it all with grace, humility, and an unshakable belief in herself. The tennis world had witnessed the emergence of a superstar. And the superstar was just getting started, and that, my friends, is how a 21-year-old from Quezon City walked onto the grass of Berlin and proved that Coco Gauff was right. The favorite to lift the trophy. A player who beat the world number 2. A player who beat the world number 8. A player who reached the semifinals of a WTA 500 event. The dream may have ended in Berlin. But a new dream is just beginning. This is the rise of Alexandra Eala. This is history in the making. And trust me, this is only the beginning.